Imagine dying, and then not being gone. Imagine your body lying still, cold, silent, while something unseen continues. For 3 days, Jesus was dead. No breath, no voice, no movement. And yet, those 3 days became one of the greatest mysteries in human history, because the Bible tells us he died, but says very little about what happened next. So the question remains, where was Jesus during those 3 days? And more importantly, what was he doing? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you understand death, eternity, and everything in between. Before the silence of the tomb, there was a mission. Jesus didn't come into the world randomly. From the very beginning, there was purpose. The Gospel of John says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." John 1:1. Jesus existed before time, before creation, before humanity. And when he entered the world, he stepped into a story that already had an ending. His life wasn't uncertain. It was intentional. Every step, every word, every miracle was leading somewhere, something unavoidable. Throughout his life, Jesus spoke about his own death, clearly, directly. The Son of Man must suffer, be killed, and after 3 days rise again. Mark 8:31, 3 days. Specific, precise, but no one truly understood, because death was final. There was no return, no second chance. When someone died, that was the end. At least, that's what everyone believed. And yet, Jesus kept repeating it, almost as if he knew that one day those words would matter more than anything. Then everything changed. The tension grew. The opposition increased. And in the middle of it all, there was betrayal. One of his own walked away. And suddenly, everything accelerated. The arrest, the trial, the accusations, the silence, and then the cross. And in that moment, everything humanity believed about death was about to be challenged. The cross was not just a moment. It was the breaking point. Everything that had been building, everything Jesus had warned about, was now unfolding in front of everyone. But what happened there was deeper than what anyone could see. From the outside, it looked like defeat. A man beaten, mocked, crucified, left to die in public. But beneath the surface, something far greater was taking place. Centuries earlier, the prophet Isaiah had written, "He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities." Isaiah 53:5. This was not random suffering. This was purpose. On that cross, Jesus carried something invisible, but heavier than anything physical. Sin, guilt, every failure humanity had ever known and would ever know. And then, in a moment that changed everything, he spoke, "It is finished." John 19:30. Not, "I am finished," but, "It is finished." Something had been completed. A mission, a plan, a purpose that had existed long before that moment. And then, he died. Not symbolically, not metaphorically, completely dead. At that exact moment, something strange happened. The sky grew dark. The earth shook. And inside the temple, the veil that separated people from God was torn from top to bottom, as if something invisible had just removed the barrier, as if access had just been restored. But while the world reacted to what it could see, something deeper was beginning, because death was not the end. Not this time. His body was taken down from the cross, carefully, silently, wrapped in linen cloth, placed inside a tomb carved into rock. A massive stone was rolled in front, sealed, guarded, final. From the outside, everything looked finished. There was no movement, no sound, no life. Just silence, heavy, unbreakable, absolute. But that silence was not empty, because while his body lay in the tomb, something else was about to begin. Something no one could see, something no one expected, something that would turn those 3 days into the most important mystery in history. For everyone watching from the outside, those 3 days were nothing but silence. The tomb was sealed. The stone was in place. The guards were watching. Everything looked final. But the Bible gives us a clue, something small, almost hidden. In 1 Peter it says, "He was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit." Verse Peter 3:918. Read that again. He was put to death, but made alive. Not later, not after 3 days. Alive in another way. And then comes one of the most mysterious lines in Scripture. He went and made proclamation to the spirits in prison. Is Peter 3:19. He went. That means movement, purpose, action. Not stillness, not silence. Something was happening, somewhere. So while his body lay in the tomb, cold and still, that was not the full story, because Jesus was not inactive. He was not waiting. He was not gone. Some interpretations suggest that he descended into what is described as the lower parts of the earth. Ephesians says he also descended to the lower earthly regions. Ephesians 4:9. This has led many to believe that during those 3 days, Jesus entered a realm beyond the physical world, a place connected to death. A place where souls waited. A place often described as the realm of the dead. But here's what makes this powerful. He didn't go there to suffer. He went there to declare, to proclaim victory. Because what happened on the cross was not defeat. It was a turning point. Before that moment, death had authority. It was final, absolute, unavoidable. But now, something had changed. Colossians says, he disarmed the powers and authorities, making a public spectacle of them. Colossians 2:15. This was not quiet. This was not hidden. This was victory. Declared, established, unshaken. So while the world saw silence, something else was happening. A confrontation, a declaration, a shift. And those 3 days were not empty. They were active, intentional, powerful. But back on Earth, no one could see it. And that is what makes this moment so profound. Back on Earth, everything felt lost. The disciples were hiding, afraid, confused. broken. The one they believed in, the one they followed, the one they thought would change everything, was gone. To them, the story had ended. Luke describes this moment in a simple but powerful way. We had hoped that he was the one. Luke 24:21 had hoped. Past tense. Hope had turned into disappointment. Expectation had turned into silence. They didn't understand what had happened. They didn't see any victory. They saw a cross. They saw a tomb. They saw the end. And maybe that feeling is more familiar than it seems. Because there are moments in life where everything you believed in feels like it disappears. Moments where nothing makes sense. Where the silence feels heavy. Where answers don't come. Those 3 days were not just part of a story. They reflect something deeply human. The space between promise and fulfillment. The moment where everything feels lost, but something unseen is still happening. While Jesus was accomplishing something beyond what anyone could see, his followers were facing doubt, fear, uncertainty. They stayed behind closed doors, not knowing what would happen next, not knowing if they would be next. Everything they had left behind to follow him now felt like a mistake. And yet, they remembered something. His words. The ones they didn't understand before. The ones that didn't make sense at the time. After 3 days. Those words were still there. Unclear, but present, like a fragment of something bigger. Something they couldn't fully grasp yet. And that is what makes this moment so powerful. Because sometimes understanding doesn't come immediately. Sometimes clarity only comes after the silence. Sometimes what feels like the end is actually a transition. While the world saw defeat, something else was unfolding. Quietly. Precisely. Exactly as it had been planned. Those 3 days were not empty. They were not meaningless. They were necessary. And even though no one could see it, everything was moving toward a moment that would change history forever. The silence was not the absence of action. It was the setup for something greater, something that would soon be revealed. Then came the 3rd day. At first, nothing seemed different. The tomb was still there. The stone still in place. The silence still heavy. But something had already changed. Before anyone realized it, before anyone saw it, the greatest shift in history had already happened. The stone was not rolled away to let Jesus out. It was rolled away so others could see. The tomb was empty. In Matthew, it says, "He is not here. He has risen, just as he said." Matthew 28:6, just as he said. That detail matters, because everything that once sounded impossible, everything that seemed unclear, everything they didn't understand before, was now becoming real. The words that made no sense now defined everything. 3 days, exactly as he said. Death had been confronted, and something no one thought possible had happened. Jesus was alive. Not symbolic, not spiritual in a distant sense. Alive, real, present. And suddenly, everything changed. The fear began to break. The confusion began to clear. The silence was replaced with revelation. The disciples who once hid would soon step forward. The ones who doubted would soon believe. And the story that seemed finished was just beginning. Because the resurrection was not just a return. It was a declaration, a statement that death no longer had ultimate authority, that the grave was not the end, that what seemed final was not final at all. And those 3 days were the turning point, not just in that moment, but for all of humanity. Because if death could not hold him, then death no longer had the same power. If the tomb could not contain him, then the story was bigger than anyone imagined. And everything that happened in those unseen moments, those silent days, those hidden actions, led to this. The moment where everything became clear. The moment where silence turned into truth. The moment where the impossible became reality. And from that point on, nothing would ever be the same. And maybe that's the part most people overlook. Those 3 days were never just about what happened to Jesus. They were about what changed because of him. Because from that moment on, death was no longer the same. Before, it was final, unquestionable, absolute. But after those 3 days, something shifted. The fear that once defined humanity lost its certainty. Because if the grave could not hold him, then the grave was no longer the end. And that changes everything. In John 11:25, Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." Even though they die. That means death is no longer a full stop. It becomes a passage, a transition, something that no longer has the final word. And maybe that's why those 3 days were filled with silence, because the message was never meant to be in the details, but in the result, the victory, the transformation, the shift from death to life. Adam brought death into the world, but Jesus confronted it, faced it, and overcame it, not just for himself, but for everyone. And that includes you, because at some point, everyone asks the same question: what happens after death? Those 3 days gave an answer, not through explanation, but through action, through reality, through something that changed history forever. And maybe the most powerful part is this: the same story didn't end in the tomb. It continued. And it still continues. Every person carries that same tension. The ability to fall, and the opportunity to rise again. The reality of death, and the hope of something beyond it. So now the question is not just what happened during those 3 days, but what it means for you. If this made you think, take a moment. Subscribe to the channel, because there are many more hidden stories like this one. Leave a like, so more people can discover this message. And tell me in the comments, what do you believe really happened during those 3 days? Because sometimes, the questions we ask reveal more than the answers we're given.